Welcome to the Beekeeper's Corner podcast. April 19th, 2020, episode 173, Double Trouble. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Beekeeper's Corner podcast. I'm Kevin England, and I'm going to do something very strange in the beginning of this. I want you to listen to this. Go ahead.
Hi, this is the Beekeeper's Corner podcast, session 2, Double Trouble, coming to you from, wherever it comes from. Out in the web somewhere. Go ahead.
You know, that guy sounds suspiciously like me. That is my twin brother, Keith. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome. 10 years into the program, you finally come join me on the show.
Well, it's nice to be here. We're in lockdown in this time of our life. And, you get to that point where your wife says, that thing you said you were going to get to someday? Now is the time. So that's what we've been doing. We've been locked down. And chatting with Kevin today, we were talking about a future and where it comes out of here and what beekeeping is and a couple of things that happened on his podcast, because I call him about his podcast. And we arrived at this, okay, it's time to do this. So I sound like him, he sounds like me, we kind of look alike, and here we go. We'll see where this goes. Broadcasting to you from my... We're empty nesters, so my desk is in my daughter's bedroom while she's gone. So here I am.
Yep, and I'm in my man cave. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, do note that you can go to youtube.com/beekeeperscorner and watch it on YouTube. We're doing a video version of it. I think that's my YouTube channel. If not, I'll make sure I get that straight before we go. But we're recording on Zoom. This is, Keith, what I talked about in that one episode of trying to figure out how to get things done while we're locked in the house. I got to give a tip of the cap to Kim Flottam, who helped me figure out that Zoom was a good place to go for this. And let's talk about what we're going to discuss on the episode. I'm going to do a local hive report. I'm going to have to sit right there and check.
Oh.
See, he does listen.
He's
not even a beekeeper, but he listens just for the purpose of listening, yeah?
Yeah.
How many shows do you think you've listened to?
24, I would say.
Yeah.
But they're way over my head, as you're going to see along the progression of this.
Yeah, so one of the things we're going to do for this episode is answer your burning questions, because you have a lot of them. One of the key things, if you're a listener, you should know about him is he calls me all the time and says, I listen to this pod. What the heck is this thing that I've talked about or whatever? So today he's going to get his chance to ask me all they're not silly questions that he wants to ask about what's what. You want to try one?
This is like the lazy layman's version. So I should say his answer to me is usually, I have a beginner section. Yeah. And you could go back and listen to all of these. And I'm like, no, I'm your brother. And I have special rights. And I think you should just help me out. So, okay.
I entertain you all the time, do I not?
Yes, he does. He's very good about it. Let me preface this. I'll set it up. Okay, is that all right?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so Varroa, it's a nasty thing. Oxalic acid, I know about that because one day I happened to be at your house and you were treating you and Bob, that other famous guy on your podcast. And I get that. What I don't get as a layperson listener, and I'm thinking, if you're new to this because you're trapped in your home right now, staying at home, maybe you don't know some of these terms. So he says things like a nuke, he says a comb, he says a honey super or queen excluder. I went, before I get on the air tonight, I went and looked up queen excluder. The thing is a screen. It's a screen. I don't get it. I thought it was a little box or something special with some kind of trigger on it. Or it's a screen. So listening and not seeing, and admittedly, I don't see the video. I only listen when I'm driving back and forth to work. Some of these things are so far beyond me. And I can let it go because Kev's good at explaining what he's doing. and I could draw the picture and the inference. But these basics, that's what I'm missing. The basics. What is a nuke? Let's start with that one. It's a
Okay.
submarine.
It's not a submarine. That's what powers submarines. A nuke
Right.
is short for the term nucleus. Nucleus is just the core of a hive. So you've been to the house, you've seen what a beehive looks like. It's a bigger box, and there's usually one on top of the other. If you could take the heart of the hive, meaning the colony, and put it in a smaller box, and then use it for various purposes, that's the intent of a nucleus colony. So
So
as
so you could have 3 nukes stacked on top of each other.
well,
I've never seen your
give me
box.
a minute and I'll show you the path of righteousness here. So if I could look in a hive and say the nest, you grasp the nest, right? That's where
That's the
the
bees
core,
in colony.
right? The bees in the colony where the queen is laying eggs and brood, one of your terms you've asked me back in
Yes,
the past. What
brood.
the hell is brood? Brood. You say brood, brood,
You
brood.
say
I don't
brood
know.
all the time, but you never
Yeah.
explain what it is. Brood.
This is going to lead me down this rat trap. A nuke is just the nest in miniature. And when you buy a hive to get started, you buy a colony. Colony is bees, hive is the equipment. When you buy a colony of bees, a lot of times the person who sells them to you sells you a package, which I know you don't know what that is. We'll explain later.
Kind of do.
And a nucleus hive, which is they've taken 5 frames out of a colony, out of a hive, and they put it in this miniature box and they sell it to you. And then you take those 5 frames out and you put them in a 10-frame box with extra frames.
So
And that's a starter colony. That's a nuke.
maybe what I should say is what I know. It's a wooden box. The top comes off. There's a little hole in the front.
Yeah.
And you slide these things in the slots.
Frames.
And there's an upper and a lower or something like that. And then you try and get everybody up in the top of the box where the heat is in the wintertime. That's how much I know.
Okay.
So
yeah.
What I don't understand is if you've got these frames and the bees are on it, what's a honey super?
Okay. Let's not go down this path yet.
Oh, okay.
I answered your question, a nuke, right? And
Good.
typically, we'll just leave it there. But a nucleus colony is the nuke equipment, which is a smaller box with a roof and a lid and a bottom board and everything, just like a miniature
That's another
hive,
one.
right?
Bottom board.
Bottom board. This nucleus thing is a piece of equipment that contains a small colony of bees. It's what they sell you to get started, and it's also something that you could use in your beekeeping practice for various tasks, which I'm not going to go into, but you got the gist of it, right? It's a hive in miniature.
Yes.
Okay. So hold your questions, but that's a good start to a number of questions we'll get to later. I want to go in a somewhat normal format. So the first thing I'll say is, what are we going to talk about? A couple news and notes. I want to talk about the hive inspection form. I want to ask you about EAS and talk about your role at EAS as part of the organization. We're going to discuss vapor masks. This is the reason that you and I talked about coming on the podcast. Wearing masks for beekeeping activities. And we'll open that up when we get to it. And then after that, we can talk about getting started in beekeeping and your interest to possibly, yeah. So you have a question. Go ahead.
No, I want to introduce, but wait, first, before we do all that, folks, let's get to the local hive report.
The local hive report. Thank you. Wow.
I always wanted to do that. Local hive report.
Local hive report. Bob Kloss came and visited me the other day. He called me with a surprise. He knows that I did a walkaway split, and he contacted me and said he came by the way of a queen. I know, walkaway split. What is that? It's a split where you take a hive and you separate it. One has the queen. I had 2 boxes, right? I took one box off and made a new colony, and That's
Can I
what I do.
stop you for a second? You don't have to do that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
go do your hive report.
Okay.
Forget about my little nuances. I'm just going to be down here in my corner. It's good.
Making faces at
Please.
me. So if
Because
you're
this will
watching
be
the
this
video,
will be
you
a
see it.
6-hour podcast. We
I
don't
know.
go.
All right.
Go. Forget me.
Bob brought me a queen. And so what we did was we first started with the hive that was on the far end. Last time I looked at that, it did not appear to have a queen. And actually what I thought was maybe it made itself a new queen. Well, when Bob and I went through that, we found the queen. She looked new. She looked like she was young. How do I know she looked new? She didn't tell me, hey, squeaky teenage voice or anything. She was smaller. Usually when you see a smaller queen, she is not either mated or she's just mated and she's not fully developed. They tend to grow a little bigger as they get mated and so on. So she looked a little dinky to me, which tells me in my brain she's a new queen. But the key to it is we saw that she's laying eggs and we saw that the colony has a queen. So we weren't going to put the queen in that one. So we walked down the road to the next set. I had just made a split. I went in the polystyrene hive looking to see whether it ended up with the queen or the other one ended up with the queen, since we split the hive in half and one of them got a queen and one didn't. Pulled the second frame, voila, there's the queen. Beautiful, super long, just gorgeous. Yeah, like the shape that you just said. She's everything. If she was dark black, that would be even better because everybody likes these dark black queens. She was orangey, but she was beautiful. So, and I have to say this, so I'm going to pat myself on the back. There's not very often that you look at things and read it and then come back later and verify what you know. So Keith, this is what you strive to get to if you become a beekeeper. I knew that other hive had a problem. I knew it didn't look like it had a good queen situation. I knew that it was probably trying to correct itself, and I opened it up and I found that it had a queen and she's laying. She's probably new, just got mated, and my read was proper coming out of winter, right? Now I'm a master beekeeper. I should know all this stuff, but sometimes the bees don't behave the way you think they're going to. I looked at the two hives that I made a walkaway split, and the one that I found the queen in is the one I thought got the queen because of the way it was behaving. It was calm, it was productive, it was doing its thing. The other hive, at the time that I made the split, immediately was nasty. They were buzzing me when I was running. They didn't seem really with it. And if I had to take my druthers, that hive, which was the cedar hive, as I call it, didn't have a queen. And darn if we know that the other one had a queen. I started lifting frames, Bob and I, and we found queen cells. So if a colony has material to make a queen and they lose their queen because I took it away from them, they'll make a new queen. Well, we found queen cells. And what Bob and I said was, well, we have a queen in a package, in a cage, and we have a hive that has queen cells and no queen. And we're looking at it and it's two deeps and it's chock full of bees. Even though I split this hive, it was still loaded wall to wall with bees. So we decided to call an audible, which is befuddles Sharon. You have to laugh, Keith. Every time I say that, Sharon's like, well, what does that mean? I said, it's a football term. You've never heard it? Do you know audible? Have you heard it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I called an audible and we split the hive again. So we took one box with all the queen cells and put it on a new bottom board. And we took the other box that had no queen and we gave it the queen. So I shot a video. Bob shot the video. I opened the queen cage. I pried the staple off and I pulled the screen back. This was after setting the queen on the top frames and watching the bees to see if they behaved. So if your colony has a queen and you try to give it a queen, it'll kill the queen. And they act nasty. They bite the cage and they try to get in to sting and kill the queen. Well, one of the ways you'd know is you take the queen cage, which has a screen on it, and you put it down on the bees. And they climb on there. And if they're trying to kill them, they have a death grip on that screen. If you could take your finger and rub it across and wipe them off, but they come back and they're lovingly loving the queen, you know that they're going to accept that queen. So what we did was instead of waiting by popping the cork and letting the candy plug be there, we release the queen right into that hive. So I pried the screen up and we set it down and we sat there and held our breath and we watched the queen come out eventually and walk right down into the hive. And now that hive has a queen. So mission accomplished there. Life is good. And the other hive, which has queen cells, the last thing to say about that hive is if you look at the queen cells, at the end of the period where the queen is about to come out, sometimes the workers help the queen to come out by going on the bottom of the queen cell and they chew around the edge on the bottom. You could literally see a discoloration on the rounded cup of the cell as it hangs down. If you don't know this, but a queen cell looks like a Mr. Peanut. It has a texture on the side and it has a round bottom, just like the bottom of my finger that I'm holding down on the video. And that round bottom changes color. It's like a light yellow versus the tan of the rest of the cell. So she's coming out imminent. And there were 2 or 3 cells and they all had that. So that hive probably has virgin queens running around. Now, weather-wise, it's been crazy weather, hasn't it, Keith?
Yes. It's been cold, hot, rain, cold, hot, rain. Sorry.
Ooh. So that's a Bugs Bunny reference. Good
Yes,
for you, because I do that all the time. So I'm glad it runs in the family. Once I say to Sharon, don't you worry, never fear. Robin Hood will soon be here.
Robs to the rich, gives to the poor.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the
queen cells.
Yes.
It was 26 degrees this morning when I got up.
Frost all over the place. Yep.
Yeah, frost.
All our plants in.
So tomorrow,
our entire kitchen is full of plants. Every bit of the island looks like a jungle right now.
Tomorrow it's supposed to be possibly 60 something degrees and it's going to rain all next week. Did you see that? There's like 1 or 2 days. So one of the things I'll tell you is if you're going to become a beekeeper, you got to be zen with the weather. So that's, let's kill this. Local hive report. I think we're in really good shape. Every hive is doing its thing. It's perfect timing. They're good size. I'm really excited to find a queen in that other hive. I moved that hive from position 9, which was in the far yard, down to position 1 and put it on my grain scale. So all my bees are down in yard 1, which just makes it easier for me to work. And one of the things I'll say to you if you're a beekeeper is they're spread out. I have my hive stands about 5 or 6 feet apart, and I have them on every other stand, so they're pretty far apart. So I like where we're going in spring. Local hive report?
Check. That was fun.
EAS.
EAS.
Tell me your story with EAS. How did it go this year?
I am a union mason bricklayer. Build large, big commercial hospitals, airport things, that kind of stuff. That's what I do for my regular job. Along the way, I also have a crazy history of doing different things. So one of the things that I do is web development, usually database-driven stuff. But I happen to be the EAS webmaster. So I'm assuming that most of you know what EAS, but if not, it's a very large bee organization for you newcomers.
Eastern Apiculture
And
Society.
they hold a very big conference. Unfortunately, they have just made the decision, unfortunately, to cancel the conference for this year. It was going to be in Orono. I hope I pronounced that right, Maine.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And they have done yeoman's work getting ready for this. So many meetings, so much time invested, so much going on. You have no idea how it all looks so easy when you get there, if you've ever been. And unfortunately, I haven't. I was thinking about this year, but they unfortunately came to reality. So if you look at their website, I'm going to plug them. It's easternapiculture.org. Okay, and if you look at the front page, they'll talk about what happened. So for their part, they're like everybody else. They're scrambling to see if they can put out some content for those people that are sorely going to miss this great conference that they host every year. So I'm sure if they send me stuff, we'll be posting it to the site, and maybe people that were scheduled to speak may be doing some, I might be over speaking, I don't know all the details, but maybe somebody would be kind enough to step up and offer some speeches. I hope that's the case. I understand that they're going to go forward with next year's plans. The details on that
It's
are being
not being
ironed out.
hosted in Maine next year, right? They're not postponing. They're going with the same location they were going to go with.
I don't want to overspeak, but my understanding is that they're going to go the direction they were already going. I don't know that they're going back to Maine. However, I can't say unequivocally that that has been decided. I missed the meeting the other night, so I'm not in the full loop. My understanding is that to some degree, they were talking about going forward to the next location. So I hope that's not the case and the people in Maine get their shot. But if that's the case, then I'm sure that this will come up again and things will get solved. If you look to their website, I'm sure as they send me information and as they have stuff to present, it's really a worthy thing to go look at that site if you've never been there. They have a ton of information, especially for like what Kevin was saying. Those of you that are going down the master beekeepers route, et cetera. And it's an honor to be a part of that, even though I'm not a beekeeper. Between that and a podcast, I kind of feel like something.
You're like an honorary member.
Yeah, and I know all these people that he talks about because I put the speakers together and stuff over the years. So yeah, Kim Flodham, I heard him talk about him earlier. I know Kim Flodham. So yeah, I feel like I know something.
That's kind of weird that you know things. Like when I talk to you, you follow along, but if I talk to somebody on the street who Kim Flodham is, they'd have no clue.
I have to share that I had a lot of fun. I get on the phone and the legend, and I've never met the man, but he's the legend. His name is Dewey Karen. And he goes, "Hey, I'm Dewey Karen. We're going to help you put the speakers together." I said, "I know who you are." He goes, "You what?" I said, "Yeah, my twin brother has a podcast and I listen to it." He goes, "What would Dewey do?" So I know you're somebody. So I find that interesting. I really enjoyed that. And he was great. They were great to work with. Every year you get a new regime. So I get to meet new people. It's fun. Can't wait to go and meet all.
What would Dewey do? You actually said that to him? He must have like.
Yeah. I said, "What would Dewey do?"
That's kind of funny. You know, what's funny is I had my hand on my Dewey Karen t-shirt today. I was going to put it on.
It's funny because I don't know. Listen, to me, you're my famous brother. You have this podcast that people over in Taiwan listen to it. So I don't know. I don't know. But like I talk to people and I'm like, "Yeah, my brother does a podcast." They're like, "What?" "Yeah, he's got a podcast." And he meets all these people and he knows all these things. And sometimes they ask him to talk and he goes down and does different things. He's really into it. Yeah, it's fun. My famous brother.
You know, my famous brother. When I go to EAS, everybody calls me Keith. "Hey, Keith, how you doing?" "No, Kevin."
Well, you look Keith. Like me. No, I've been answering to the name Kevin all my life. So
I get emails, "Hey, Kevin, can you go update the blah, blah, blah on the website?" It's like, no, that's my brother Keith. So yeah.
Yeah. I have to tell this story. Keith moment. Do I get to do Keith moments? One day Kevin come to work for me.
Keith moment.
And he was in a construction trailer and my foreman screamed at him, "Get out there, get on the wall. What are you doing in here?" He goes, "Wait, I'm not Kevin. I'm Kevin, I'm not Keith. Get out there. What are you doing in here?" I just had to say that. Sorry. Go ahead. All right. Where are we going next? Do you want me to go back to my things or?
We're going to go to the so the thing that we've been talking about forever was I did a podcast where I talked about protecting yourself from acid vapors when you're doing and various activities.
Right. And you were good. I have to give you kudos on that.
I did a good job.
The background is I'm actually an OSHA instructor. I'm an apprentice instructor. I teach for our union, et cetera. And I do respiratory fit testing for our union members. And because of silica, which is now the newest OSHA standard, we are acutely aware of respiratory problems. So what our union hall has done is they've gotten together with all the contractors and they put a program together so that everybody has the same equipment. It alleviates the liability of the contractor to have to present 17 different types of masks and cartridges. And so in conjunction, we got a grant. Everybody wears the same equipment unless there's special circumstances.
Do you own
which
the
we'll talk
equipment or
about.
they supply it?
So the members get a mask for free. They also get the training for free. And I say free, we pay dues and stuff. It's not like somebody else pays for it. However, I want to start with this, is if you're going to wear one of these devices, anytime that you take some sort of a step where you're compromising your ability to breathe freely, and this goes with what we're doing right now. Everybody's wearing a mask to go to the local supermarket. So if you're taking that air that's freely exchanging and you're compromising that, you have to be aware that there's possibly some negative aspect to that. So if you're a worker and maybe you're not in the best of condition, or you're working your hives and maybe, I'm sorry, I'm going to be derogatory, maybe you're an office dweller and you don't get to go outside like I do, you could potentially put yourself in harm's way simply by making your breathing more difficult over a period of time. So you cannot just go buy, you could, but you shouldn't, go buy one of these masks without doing the proper assessment before you do it. And that's one of the things that we offer, and that was the lead into our discussion, is that you have to do a medical evaluation. And it could be as simple as going to 3M or whoever the mask operator is, going to their website, and they have online questionnaires where a doctor evaluates it, and then they give you a period of time. More importantly, you need to know how to use that equipment. You cannot just say, okay, I'm going to put this on and have a face that has facial hair. It won't work. You have to be clean shaven. You have to understand how to clean the device, what the limitations are. There's as many different types, configurations, and I think you're going to see. So I did a little printout. I actually sent my mask to my daughter because she's on the COVID unit in New Hampshire. So I sent her this. And if she runs out of PPE up there, she's going to have that equipment. So what I'm showing you is—
mailed her a mask?
Yeah, I put it in a box and I sent it to her. It's a 3M 6000 series mask. It's a full face mask. Now, Kevin's going to show you what he has, which is a little different version. You could go ahead. And he's holding that up now. And what it is it's one that you see more like somebody in an auto body shop would use, where they just cup it over their face and it has the cartridges on the side. So the thing about these masks is—
wait, let me say that.
Go ahead.
Note that my cartridges are still sealed. You don't want to open them until you use them. So This is a brand new mask, and these are the cartridges, and you should store them properly. I'll look up which episode I talked about it, but there's a lot of information I conveyed. But so you had a full face mask. This is a partial face mask.
Correct.
Right.
So we do, as you remember, and you're going to use this equipment if you're going into a refractory, into one of the refineries or something like that. Oh, hold on one second. Alexa, turn on desk lamp. Sorry, it must be 9 o'clock. Shut my lamp off.
If you're playing out loud, you probably just talked to everybody's Alexa.
Oh, sorry, people. Sorry. Cancel.
That's fine.
Where was I? I got lost. I'm sorry. If you're going out, we do what's called a respiratory fit test. And the N95 masks, which now I don't have to explain because everybody in the planet has heard that term in the last month. Those masks have a quality. And wearing this mask, the one that I showed, this 300 full face super duper one, is not necessarily any better than wearing that simple mask that you see people wearing on the streets every day. It depends on the type of testing you do and the way that you wear that equipment and the duration and time and all of those factors. So there is a lot to know. And again, I go back to my opening statement where you just want to be somebody that looks into it a little bit. Don't just go buy a mask and put it on and go out, because, you know, if you're restricting your breathing and you're not doing it right, That's a health concern. If you're not wearing it correctly and you're not getting the seal that you're supposed to have, that's a health concern. If you're not maintaining that mask and wearing the right cartridges, using them in the proper way, that is a health concern. And you're trying to do good, so you want to make sure that you're doing good by taking these simple steps. It's not hard. It's not
There's
difficult.
one thing
What
we
we
all
do
have
is
in common, which is we need to breathe, period. We need to breathe. So why would you mess with anything that has to do with the number one thing you need to do in order to live, which is breathe, right?
And I could tell you, so if you could see us, if you're not just listening, we're both wearing glasses, and glasses are a consideration. And there are full masks that have positive pressure and do different things. You could wear contacts. You can, there are, but I mean, not knowing and going into it blind, you're not doing yourself any favors. So if you need this equipment, make sure that you're doing it the right way. That's it. That's what I got.
The other day I was on YouTube and I was watching this guy. I was looking up different oxalic acid vaporizers,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy was showing how his Oxivap ProVap device worked. And he's standing out in the yard with the thing, and he has it lit, and he's spewing vaporized gas, and he starts coughing, and he's talking to his wife. She starts coughing, and she's filming it, and it was just, what a travesty. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Sounds
only
like the silica. They want to show you the silica dust, but they're standing in there cutting there, no water, no vacuum, no nothing. Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Let me play. I'm not a bricklayer. What is the silica dust when you're cutting
So
with a saw?
silica is a superfine particle. If I had to compare it to something, it's today's version of asbestos. It's been around since the dawn of time. The industry, anytime you deal with any kind of dust that has anything to do with sand or cutting concrete or brick or anything that we do in that regard, if you open that up and that super fine particle, it'll go through where water won't go. That's how fine it is. If it gets into your lungs, it'll lodge into your lungs, and you could have acute silicosis, which is rare but possible, or you could have long-term exposure similar to the asbestos. Basically, your lung can't expel it, so parts of your lung die, and it stops you from exchanging oxygen at the lowest level. So for us as a trade, it's become a very big topic because everything we do, we have to deal with silica. And because of that, that's where the respiratory aspect comes in. Now, we clean brick with detergents. We do things like
You must
that.
have
So that,
people who are within range of what you're doing and all that stuff too, right? But this is not a homeowner concern, is it? Unless people are cutting tile or doing whatever.
you should be concerned, yeah. If you're doing the homeowner thing, it's still silica.
That's what I
Anytime that
mean.
you're cutting something like
If
a
you're
block
cutting
or
stone
brick or
block
tile,
anything at home, then you need to be concerned.
I could easily help you with this. You go to OSHA.gov and look up Table 1 if you're concerned about this, and you
Yeah.
could find the basics on how to help yourself, at least the minimum. I mean, there's plenty more. I could talk for hours on this, but we're beekeeping.
So I'm going to come back to episode number 156. It was titled Mad as Hockey Sticks. It was topic number 1, protective masks. And on that, I had linked to the cartridge and filter selection guide, the respiratory selection. You want to look at formic acid, page 127 of that guide, whatever. Go to the show notes for that. And I think the key is I bought the mask and I bought the cartridges, and there's 2, let me see if I get this right without screwing it up because it's important. There's 2 reasons you wear a mask. Formic acid is one, and formic acid is an acid, so you need the cartridge, 6,000 something. I don't know it off the top of my head. That is the one for acids. In fact, it probably says it.
Usually it's associated with a color. I don't want to make blanket statements, but if you have the right color, usually.
Well, these are sealed, so I can't tell what color it is, but it's 6,003. 6,003 is organic vapor acid gas cartridge. but don't listen to me. Go read it from the 3M guide. And
Right.
the
That's
other one
good
is
stuff.
multi-gas vapor cartridge. And this one is for different uses in beekeeping. You wear the right one. Now, one of these will protect you against an acid, 6003, if I have it right, and the other one will not. So do your homework is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And
So like
listen to
this,
the episode that I just mentioned.
the image that I presented earlier, for those of you that could see, has purple, and generally that's what I have on mine. It's particulate. So
So there's one other
that gives
thing,
you kind of,
which again, you called it out for COVID. Um, these pieces here, there's 4 of them. You would use 2 on a mask, as far as I know. They're little plastic pieces. They almost look like earmuff pieces,
right.
and they go on top of the cartridge. And what
Correct.
happens is in here, in this box that I'm holding, if you're watching the video, there's a particulate filter, N95, should sound familiar. And in combination, when you're doing oxalic acid, and especially if you're using powdered form that you're sublimating, different, I won't go there.
Yeah.
It's a powder. And to your point, you're not supposed to ingest that. So they not only tell you to wear the acid cartridge, but they tell you to, it might be overkill, but why would you not follow the instruction? Have a particulate filter on it too. So when I do my oxalic acid vaporizations and stuff, I'm going to wear these. Now, the one thing that I didn't talk about was what you're holding up, a face shield. My mask is nose, mouth cover, but it doesn't cover my eyes. You don't want to get it in your eyes, so you're supposed to wear a face shield, or you get a full face mask like the one you were holding. Now, I don't know how do you wear that face mask underneath your beekeeping veil?
So
Which
first of all, the bad thing about these is they get very dirty very quick in our business. This is a fresh one. You could actually see me.
looks like a racing tear-off there, Keith.
Yes, it is. It is similar to that. It's a very thin piece of plastic. However,
You should
the
explain that.
alternative of something actually hitting you in the face is a big deal.
Keith is a race car driver, and he
Yes,
wears a helmet, and he races on dirt. And when you race on dirt, the mud flies in your face all the time. And they
you have a
put
little
these
plastic
plastic sheets over
puller.
top of the screen, and you tear them off and
Right.
get yourself a new view. And maybe how many do you use in a race? 3, 4?
Usually about a half a dozen, and you put them all on one side of the helmet, and then when you don't have any more to pull, you can pull one more off, and then you're wiping your field trying to see. So
Or you're racing with your shield up, which you shouldn't do.
yeah, you crack it a little bit and you get a mouthful of dirt. So
So tell me,
what I want to say about this is
you're holding up the full face shield.
I'm holding up the face shield. This particular one is meant to go on a hard hat. And now if you're really excited about this kind of stuff, you could put on, they make hard hats that have built-in shields in them and all kinds of things. They look a lot like a bike helmet. They're a little more expensive, but they have built-in earphones
Have you ever seen
safety
you've
glasses.
seen my beekeeping veil, right? It has a helmet inside, which the
Yeah.
netting sets on. Could you put that over? I guess it doesn't have a wide enough brim.
No, I think it'll go. And not all of them are this style. This on a helmet with this spring actuated back. What you can't see is it's got a metal frame, and then on the back it's got a spring with a piece of rubber around it, and it stretches over the back of your hard hat. These are notorious for falling off, but you do your best to protect yourself, because that one time, and I've been a Mason since 1984. Believe me, I've taken my share of hits from something coming off, and thankfully we wear our safety glasses. In fact, I have prescription ones. I never take them off. And if you're out there and you're working with bees and you're doing it as a hobby, and I know some people do it for a living, I understand that, but you want to not ever get injured doing that. Okay, you're going to get stung occasionally, but that's part of the deal. But the back injury, the one-off, the getting something in your face like oxalic acid drops is probably not something you want to do on the weekends. So take the time to make it right, and just a little precaution goes a long way. We're not saying you got to wear Kevlar. mean that. I don't want to get crazy about it. But if you're going to wear a respirator, invest in the time to do it right. Make sure that you have somebody
So
do
talk
a
about
medical
that.
checkup.
Not to put you on the spot. I realize we're
Good.
not going to do a training thing here, but tell me the basics about getting a good seal. And first off, I went through medical evaluation at work because we
Mhm.
had confined space and I was involved in that. So I've been through that and can wear a respirator and have been trained.
So
But
there's
if
there's
you're a
two types
layperson
of
and you're
tests.
looking at this equipment, what are some basics beyond you should go follow what they say on
It's
for
not
you?
hard. I could go into it a little bit. Qualitative and quantitative. Okay. One is more than the other, and it doesn't matter which one. You'll know if you have to go do it. You basically, we show you how to wear the equipment. We show you how to don and doff, both on and off.
Don
Okay.
means put on, doff means take off.
Correct. And in essence, we show you how to test it while you're wearing it to make sure that it's got a proper seal. And then what we do is they have a special procedure where you wear the equipment, we put something over top of you that's akin to a hood, and then we spray something in that's a vapor. And if you could taste it, it has a sweet, saccharine kind of smell to it and taste. You'll know that your exposure is there, that you didn't wear the mask properly. So we can go and we ask you to do some simple tasks. You read a sentence, you stand on one foot, you turn your head side to side. And it's essentially you're emulating what you would do if you were moving around wearing that mask. And you're learning that it is actually sealed to your face, right?
Hmm.
So through that series of tests, you could determine that you're wearing the thing correctly. And then we go into how to break it down, how to clean it, what to do to take care of it.
What do you have to
You
do to
can't
clean it?
just,
If I wore that one time out, and obviously I would wipe the outside down, clean the inside with soap and water. Is there anything I
right.
don't get it wet?
No, it's not that big a deal. For us, we're in a much different environment than you are. We're
Yeah.
talking about grinding joints out of a brick wall. So
Yes,
there's a
we don't
lot
have
of
any
dust
of that.
behind
We're standing at a
it. Yeah.
beehive, and the most we're going to get is some vapors waft our way.
So I think the biggest thing for you is the storage of it. You want to make sure that it's in a reasonable place. You can, like in this particular mask that I keep showing you, you could buy what like a cell phone cover has on it and put it on the screen, so
Yeah.
that if it gets marked up or if it gets dirty, you simply do the tear off thing like we were saying. For you, if you're going to wear it 3 times a year, my suggestion would be line a bucket with some sort of cloth, a microfiber, and then store it across that. Put it in there and keep it safe. That's the biggest thing. Is you don't
Do
want to
you
throw it
guys
in the box
have
with
a
all your
box
other
you keep
beekeeping
your
equipment.
cartridges sealed in? Because you don't want to, first off, one of the things I say in that episode, but it's worth repeating here, don't store your cartridges in your garage next to your oil or volatiles,
No,
right?
no, it's like the thing in the refrigerator. It picks up the taste. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, so where do you store it? What do you guys keep your cartridges in?
They simply they recommend that in our case, because we're not storing it near anything, that you store the stuff in a bucket. You could put those in an individual Ziploc bag if you care to, but you have to give it some chance to breathe too. Because remember that when you breathe in and out, it's air, but it's also moisture. So you want to give this. You don't want to seal it so tight that you're going to have a problem down the road.
So I always envisioned that I would work the hives and do whatever, and then I would bring it in. I'm not going to put it in the cabinet with my chainsaw and things like that, but I'm going to
No,
bring it in the house. I'm going to let it dry out. And then eventually I have a dehumidifier running in the basement, whatever. I'll make sure that it gets dried out properly from any moisture from me breathing. And then I'm going to put it in plastic and seal it
I
up.
think if you're like most of us, by the time you reach our age, plus 50, um, you have some sort of, like I have mine is in a duffel bag. That's where I keep it. I keep all the equipment. I keep an extra hard hat and everything in a big gym duffel bag, and that's where I store it. And I literally wrap that, like I said, I wrap the screen in a microfiber, and then the cartridges that are in use aren't new, obviously, but the rest of them are all in the wrapper, just like you do.
Is there any place
And
where a lay person can go get tested? They don't belong to a union.
yes, I believe there is. I don't, because we have a program and I've never really looked outside of it. I know there's availability to do that. There are people. It will cost some money. I don't think it's free. I don't think anybody
Yeah.
does it.
If you're an office dweller,
Yes.
you go ask your nurse department. A lot of them have an HR
Yes.
slash not HR, a nurse. You know, a lot of places, even a standard regular corporation has testing for people who do confined space and other things. So
I don't know the answer to this, but you might be able to go down to your local volunteer emergency services
fire
and they might
company
be able
and
to steer you. Yeah.
because they wear Scott masks, right? Scott
Right. They're
patches
wearing
we used to
similar
wear when
equipment
we
for
were in the
different
fire
reasons.
service.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, it's time.
Yep.
Burning questions.
Burning questions. I'm ready.
Topic number 2.
So we did those couple things that I said earlier.
Let me
So
first say
now,
this. Let
to
me say,
preface this, you and I have been discussing you possibly joining forces with me and mentoring me here at my property.
yeah,
And because you want to see how things go outside of your realm, you were thinking about, and you've been talking about it on your podcast, putting a couple of hives in different places. Well, guess what? I was one of those people you were considering.
yeah. Wait,
So I
before you
talked to
do
my
that,
significant
I'm going
other.
to
She's
interrupt you
in.
for a second. Hold on.
Good.
I'm going to ask you a off the cuff question.
Ginger ale.
I'm drinking water. COVID.
You-
I have to take a moment.
Good.
You were sick.
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but boy, it was bad.
Tell me. So we won't call it COVID because you didn't get tested and you can't tell whether
Right.
you have the antibodies. Maybe someday you'll find out. But talk about the experience, how you got it, what
Uh,
happened, so on.
I was working in over the Mario Cuomo Terrytown, call it what you want, bridge. What do they call it? Tappan Zee. And I came out of that job and they asked me to go to JFK and run a job at JFK. And I said, okay,
JFK
I'll
for the
go.
international.
John F. Kennedy International Airport.
Yeah,
It's in
JFK
New York.
Airport.
So I
Queens,
had been there for a month, worked there.
New York City.
It's a huge undertaking to go to that job for me because I don't even want to go into that. It's a 14-hour day. So there was one aspect that had to get finished. I said, I'll go, but I'm not going to the airport. I'm going to get in our company truck. We're going to go in through the taxiway, ride along the jets to the job that's outside. It's undercover. We'll be there for 2 days. We're good. The second day, my coworker who was driving the truck was ill. He sucked it up. We finished the job and we left. I went home. After that, I was quarantined. Not because somebody told me to, but because in New Jersey, they said stay home. So I did. The following week, I got really ill, like not a huge fever, but a fever and just weak, couldn't hardly get up and walk. Just bad. And it hung and it clung and it just didn't go away.
No respiratory. Yeah.
At the end of it, I started coughing, but I wasn't like short of breath or anything. And then I had a second online virtual doctor visit. That was interesting. And they gave me, I forget what it's called, some sort of antibiotic, really. The one of the two things that they're talking about. And it took a couple days, but it solved it, I think. That was a big one. So
That's
I've
romantic.
been home since. I've done almost no traveling. And we're doing okay staying home. It's not a problem for us. We're fortunate. My wife works for a very familiar pharmaceutical
Yeah,
company.
Bristol Myers.
Yeah.
We
And she's
purchased
home.
Celgene, and when we sealed the deal, we got Karina with it.
Right. So my wife works for Kevin's company now. And she's
Well, we
home.
work for the same company.
Yeah.
It's on
How
my
about that?
but yeah, that's
So,
cool.
Yeah. But that was my story. And I didn't get tested. I don't know what happened, but the anger part was that the guy didn't call and tell me he was sick for 3 days and stayed home, nor did my company. So that was a little bit of a thing.
Did he?
I called him to tell him I was sick.
He get
Sorry.
tested? Your coworker?
He did not.
No.
So flu that other thing, I don't know, but boy, I don't want to do it again. I'll tell you that.
First off, shame on you. You didn't even tell me you were sick. I was like, where the heck are you? I
Yeah.
finally got a hold of you. And you're like, oh, I've been out of commission. I feel like I'm paralyzed. I'm like, well, what the hell's wrong with you? You didn't
It was bad.
Yeah.
My wife would say I'm the biggest baby on the planet, but that's what they all say. So
Well,
I'm staying with that.
you're funny.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you out.
Go ahead.
You remember when we went to Tulsa and I said to you, we're in this building with all these people and I'm going to wash my hands and do all this. You're like, what? You're a germaphobe. What did you lick? I forgot what you licked.
I don't know, but I'm a bricklayer, so we think if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger.
You took something and like licked the doorknob or something ridiculous like that. I don't forget what it was.
Never been sick in my life.
Never been sick. I don't ever get sick. Look, you're licking something. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Oh no.
You got to bring that up. You're making me look bad. That's funny though. You're right. I did it. I admit it.
Yeah, it was funny.
Still strong like bull.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go to my questions. I got it.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right.
I'm gonna need a drink for this.
So this is a little unrelated. Can I just be a surrogate place for you to put a hive? Like, if I call up this, hey, I got a beautiful place. You want to put a hive?
They don't stop you. I know the answer to this. So on our website, Northwest,
right?
We get requests all the time in the state, and actually, I've almost opened it to the state of New Jersey, much to my chagrin. We have a thing that says, do you want a hive placement? And you could fill out a form.
Okay.
Like a dating service, Tinder for beekeepers, will map you to a beekeeper. And I suggest for listeners, if you don't have this service, it's a good idea because there's a lot of people who don't want to keep bees, but would love to make a match with a beekeeper and keep them there. And actually last week, we got a request on there from a corporation, and I happened to know a guy who keeps bees in the area where the corporation was. And I sent him a notice, and he sent a notice to the person from the company and tried to make a match there. So yes, you can go to our website, Northwest, if you're in Hunterdon County, Warren County, preferably, and we will post your site. And I know that people have found beekeepers to come in, and there's always beekeepers, the bigger folks or people who are really going crazy, that are looking for a place to put bees. So yeah, if you put your thing on my website, I could probably find you a beekeeper to keep a hive on your property.
Check.
All
right. My investment coming into this green, and I'm going to throw it out there that I'm plus 50. I have a couple dollars. I'm not poor, but I can't afford to pay attention. So we're going to put $500 in this. Is that enough? Because I had a thing on my Facebook page today from somebody that rhymes with grow and mow that said I could get everything I need in the classic bundle for $134.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that? What's my investment?
Yeah, you could do it for that much. So this is what I would tell you. We would give you a beekeeping catalog. You have the house of Kevin, so you can get equipment from me. Yeah. But if you were not affiliated with me, you could go to a number of beekeeper suppliers and buy a turnkey kit. And then you could also, let's just say Man Lake. That's a supplier. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're big. Yep. They're huge.
I put their sponsorship on EAS.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So Man Lake catalog, open it up and get the beginner's beekeeper kit. You'll buy a kit that'll cost you more than you need to spend because it has stuff like wooden pellets that you'll never use and things. But for the most part, you get a kit. You got to build it.
What I need.
But it gives you
south of 500.
And then
because let's face it, I don't really care that much. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. I'm not that worried about honey. So it's more about, doing it for the right reasons. I don't know. It's not because I want to make $1 million selling honey. So what am I going to have to pay? And you mentioned earlier that I have a race car and that costs money. And, what are you going to do with your money? You might as well do something worthwhile. Beekeeping, to me.
You have like the trifecta. You have a boat, break out another 1,000. There's nothing like a boat.
Yes, I do love swimming.
Yeah.
I love a boat. No, if I could just
Out
find the
on the
time.
salt water, spraying your air, a little.
It's funny because now we have the time and we can't go, you know. That's my life.
That's
All
an
right.
inside joke, right? Because every time we go to the races, I tease Keith.
Nothing like
You
a
see that
boat.
guy? He's got a boat in his yard. You know how nice it would be to have a boat and go out and go fishing? I never get to go fishing.
Okay, now, question number 2.
Wait, let me finish your answer.
Oh, I thought
Yes,
you did.
you can, for $500, ballpark, spitball, you can get a complete hive setup. You have to
Yeah.
build it yourself.
The
And
master.
you can get bees.
Yeah.
You could buy a starter.
How much is the bee colony thing? I go to South Carolina. I want to buy the Russian bees.
This is
I don't
the
know.
challenge, is that it varies all over the place. You could buy a package. You said you knew what that was, or you could buy a nuke, and you could
For
get them from a range, right? A package. It's funny. I don't remember what they're.
You're hard about. Just give me $100, $500. How much?
They're less than 200 and near
Okay, that's what I
200.
want. That's
Less
it.
than 200 for a package, near 200 for a nuke. Sometimes
Okay.
more.
So if you go the winter and your bees don't make it, you're out $200. That's what.
Pretty much.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'm all right with that. I can take that risk.
And then you got to buy bee suits, and you got to buy hive tools, and all
So
that.
$500.
Yeah, you could get started for 500.
All right.
If you do it well. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. 2 question? No, really. How much time? No, I know what you say, and I know how much time you invest, but no, really. If I work 6 days a week, I teach OSHA, I do whatever. How much time?
In the springtime, you're going to be in your hive once a week.
Okay.
If you find something, you're going to be in twice that week. That's from April through end of May.
Okay. I'm all right with that. That's just like starting to mow the grass.
In June, July time frame, if you have honey, you're going to pull the honey, and you're going to, take the honey off.
1 day.
Process it.
Told me. It takes 1 day to get the honey.
Usually do it 1 day, 2 days. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm all right with that so far. I still can mulch the garden though, because I got a lot of mulch. Right.
You can.
I don't want to be the bad beekeeper.
You're going to be in at least once a month, and towards the end of the year, you're going to be in quite a bit more. Similar to spring, you have to get ready for fall and check your hives and feed them if you have to, and make sure they're not getting robbed and things like that. So This is a rule of thumb. Understand that if you have a cat, you got to feed it every day. You got to clean the litter box. You got to do whatever.
Yeah.
If you have a dog, you could usually let the dog out. The dog does its business. Sometimes you got to walk the dog, do whatever. But a cat's far more maintenance, right? You believe that? So it's more like a dog and less like a cat. That's what they say sometimes. So, but they're livestock, right? So whenever they call for something, you're going to have to go take care of them. So at least I would say if once a week during the season, hardly at all, if any, during the winter. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. In spades. That's it. That's what I want.
You could go on vacation.
I don't want to be the treatment-free beekeeper because I don't think and I listened to that podcast, and that guy, he sounded really good listening to him, because he was really like, no, they're going to do what they do, and I'm just going to keep an eye out once in a while.
Yeah.
But then there's the other side where you and Bob are like traveling the world, opening up people's boxes every weekend. I like you say, in the middle, somewhere in the middle. I'd be all right with that. All right. Next question.
If you have to.
Mm-hmm. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my.
Oh my. Bear.
So I live, it's funny because those of you that don't know, New Jersey is notoriously known for people drive or fly into Newark, and it's very, very busy. It sometimes has smells. There's a lot of industry. We don't live there. We don't have any exits. There's a joke about New Jersey. What exit do you live on? So I live all the way out in the beautiful side of New Jersey. Is beautiful. People come, they drive out and they're like, wow, it's really nice out there.
Yeah.
So we're happy to live in Hunter County in New Jersey on the western side. And there are bears here. There are literally bears. I've never had one in my property, but they're literally on the road on the other side of the road. And I want to know. So I have fox. They, I have rabbits and they're up on my deck and a thing. But I have fox, I have bears in the area. Am I worried about bears? And if I get a bear, what happens? What do I do then? So can you talk about that a little?
So yes, you should be worried about bears, and yes, you have them more so than I do, but just as much as I do. And I play roulette by the fact that I'm not doing anything for my bears. But if you want peace of mind, put up a bear fence, and we have
Like
video.
an electric fence?
Yeah, electric fence. Yep.
Okay, I have that actually, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Give me
So
a
you,
reason to
you
use it.
put them inside, but you have to bait the fence to make sure that the bear comes in and tries to eat the bait and gets zapped so it knows that the fence is live. And I can teach you all about that. But if you live in New Jersey, especially near 78, which is up near where you are,
Hmm.
there's the further you go north, the more dense the bears are. And I mean, we have them here. They're in every part of New Jersey, honestly. Now,
So
what happens if you have a bear come in? First off, if it comes in and it gets to your equipment, hopefully you have your equipment strapped. They might knock it over and not do something, or they might just totally, utterly decimate it till they're done with it,
do
and
the
you'll come
bees
back
sting the
and
bear?
yeah, they do. But
They
if
don't
the
care.
bear is determined, and actually the bear's unlike Winnie the Pooh, the bear's not after honey most of the time. It's usually after the brood. It wants to eat the eggs, the larva and pupa is what
I
it's
didn't know
after.
that. Learned
It wants the
learned
protein.
something today.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so
but if it
can
comes in
I?
and it knocks your hive over and you find your hive, you can't stand the hive up and put a fence up because it's coming back tomorrow to finish the job. So what we typically get is if your hive is attacked and you're fortunate enough because you had it strapped down, which you should, and it knocks it over and maybe it did some damage, but you could piece the hive back together, you need to move it somewhere else. And then you need to put a bear fence up, and then you could bring it back later once you get everything established and back in whatever. But
So I'm a bricklayer. I'm just going to pour a concrete pad and then build a brick wall around it.
you could do that. People build shelters. They, you know, they're notorious, right? You know how much they get into dumpsters. They can climb. They could do whatever. But yeah, people build screened enclosures sometimes just to
Right.
keep them. Yeah,
Well, if you put it around your garden, you could keep the deer and the bear out with the same wire. That would be
right.
neat.
But it's got to
Because we
be
have deer like dogs here.
it's got to be set up for bear. It's got to be
Yeah.
tall enough. The wire's got to be in the right place. I can't go through it now, but yeah, you can
Okay.
use this
Good.
fence. Yeah.
Next
Yeah,
question. You ready?
I've never seen a yard that has more deer than yours. And we have a lot in ours. They actually live in our woods
We're
by
like
the house, but
Mutual of Omaha.
every
So
time I'm standing on your deck, there's a deer
yeah,
24/7.
they're like you can mow right up to them. They're like dogs here. They don't even move anymore. They're so used to people. So next question is not my village is something that we deal with a lot, meaning, and it's going to be derogatory, I'm sorry. It's a little affluent out here. People have not much to worry about, so they worry about things they probably don't need to. So not my village is a slogan for us. And playing well with others and like a good neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to do to have a beehive? I have 5 acres, so it's not near anybody. You probably put it a little bit away. There's 30 acres next to me in a farm. And do I go tell the neighbors, hey, by the way, I'm putting in bees, don't go by the way boxes? Do you need permits? I know this,
Yeah,
I
so
know from
let's talk
listening to
about
your
that.
podcast now
Mm-hmm.
that there's all kinds of new things coming along or already in place for beekeepers who didn't play well with others.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
so you have more than enough
in
property.
30 seconds, tell me, do I
More
need
than enough
permits?
property, no concern. And
No.
the regulation of the bees on your property is at the state level, not your municipality. And if
Okay.
your neighbors had a complaint, as long as you're following the guidelines for keeping bees in New Jersey, the
Yeah.
state will not hassle you. You'll be fine. And you have more than enough property to keep hives. And it's your discretion whether you want to talk to your beekeeper neighbors or not.
Okay.
Tell them you're a beekeeper. Uh, out of courtesy, if somebody's allergic, deathly allergic, like they're going to get stung and die, you might
Right.
change your mind about whether you're going to keep bees on your property. But um, you know,
How about like dogs? And I don't really like, my daughter comes back from New Hampshire. She brings her Alaskan Malamute.
no problem.
No,
So this is the deal: is that you should put them away from your property line, so that
right.
if your neighbor has a horse that comes up to the property line, they're not going to get impacted by the bees flying out to go forage. The dogs and cats and chickens and things like that, they generally learn pretty quickly to stay away.
Okay.
And, you shouldn't have an issue with
So north, south, east, in the sun, in the shade.
face the morning sun, up off the ground,
So facing
in
east,
the
up off the
sun if
ground.
you can get them fully in the sun.
All day.
I live in the woods. You know where I live, so I don't
Yeah.
get sun. So
No, you're right.
where
No.
does the sun come up? In front of your house?
To the
Behind your
east of
house?
me is, it's over by the park. That side. So
Okay, so
yeah.
you would put them out in front of your trees, facing
Yeah.
the park, in the open space towards the end of your.
Wait, let me check. Over here for you people that are watching this thing.
You would put it over
People that are
here,
listening, you're
put it
just going to
like
have
that
to use
way,
your
facing in
imagination.
that direction.
Yes, this, it's boxed in, it's drawn out. All right. Okay, next one. This is one. This is my last one for tonight, and then we go further than this. That's great because we're an hour in, I think, almost. Um, why not? So I told you a minute ago I keep rabbits, and I built this big, elaborate, beautiful rabbit hutch. It's got a fan in it that comes on, and if it's too hot,
Mhm.
the fan comes on. In the wintertime, if it's too cold, we bring them in because we spoil the heck out of them. But we actually have an enclosure that has doors that close, and it has a heating pad. It's super simple. It costs next to nothing, and you just plug it in. It plugs in, and
Yeah.
it's not. You could touch it. It's not like it burns anything up, but it keeps. Why, after all the things that I hear about the bees, can't you just run an extension cord out and plug one of these things in and solve all your problems and put enough heat in that they would never die? That's what I want to know.
Mm.
Last question. Final
Mm.
answer.
Wow. It's funny, as a listener, just asked this question not too long ago on Facebook, and the answer is more pragmatic about why do you. I'm going to answer your question with a strange thing, and then give me a minute, and I'll explain. Why would you want the bees to be warm? And that's the conundrum. So in the wintertime, come fall, um, all the
Right.
forage is gone, and there's nothing for them to do. You actually don't want them active, because if they're warm, they're going to be operating inside the hive. They'll be consuming their stores. They're going to go out and try and fly when it's cold outside, and you'll be losing bees. And in essence, when it's cold, you really want them to be dormant. It's called torpor. When they get a certain temperature where it's cold, they come together in a cluster, and they stay warm in the cluster, and they just sustain themselves until warmer days. If you put heat inside that hive and make them operational, they'll be moving around doing things. They'll be eating their food reserves, which you don't want them to do. And so
Have
you
you
don't
ever seen?
eat them.
I'm holding up a picture of this thermo peep heating pad.
Yeah.
It's $29.
Hmm.
Have you ever felt one of these?
Yeah, I know
It's
what that is.
so. Do you? Let me ask you. I understand what you're saying. Okay, it's like in the movie where they put the guy on a plane and he goes and he has no oxygen, so they shoot him with something that keeps his heartbeat down. That thing. All right, I went off on a tangent, but
Is that a Keith
there's so
moment?
little heat that comes out of one of these things.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I'm talking maybe it would raise in a 5-degree day would raise the thing 1 degree.
Hmm.
I don't know. I want
No,
I
there's
want the
some validity
science.
to it, but here's the other side of that. Most people keep their bees out in the middle of a field. How do you get electricity out there? You're
Yeah.
going to run 7
Well,
extension cords out to the back of your 5 acres. You're not.
I
You don't want a
don't.
yard with an extension cord going through. Call
No,
the
I know.
rapids. So that's the bigger problem. And then you're going to get into putting solar up in the winter and trying to feed the thing. Why? Bees will survive in the cold. You know,
So,
they live in Canada at 20 below zero in a hive.
right.
Why do you need to heat them in the
The
wintertime?
shorter answer is it's more trouble than it's worth. But if
Right.
you could do it, it probably wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah, in the springtime when you want them to grow quickly, and if you were trying to get, yeah, you could see advantages. In fact, this will bake your noodle. There's people who are big commercial operators that are talking about building buildings, warehouses, Amazon.com style
Climate
warehouse.
controlled beekeepers.
Climate control. They're going to put their bees in instead of taking them down to Florida to overwinter. They're going to keep them here in New Jersey in a big warehouse, and they'll climate control. And then when spring comes and they want the bees to be somewhat operational and start building out brood and doing whatever, they're going to turn that thermostat up a little bit, right?
It's interesting. I wonder if that would help with Varroa if they were inside a building for the winter. That's a good. I actually just got done working on a job that was one of these, these 300 door long giant warehouses, and we were filling the doors. There was 50 of them in each building, and the thing was a third of a mile. And I mean, you could put the entire population of the United States bees inside one of these buildings. They're so huge. I can't imagine if you put them in there and they couldn't go out. I guess you could provide them the food and you could wipe out Varroa in a year. Wouldn't that be an interesting idea coming from a non-beekeeping person? What do you think?
Yeah, it would be an interesting tabletop exercise, but I don't think it would work
Like the
because
big bubble in the science fiction movies.
yeah, it sounds like Truman Show.
All right, we're getting silly.
Hey, you didn't ask me. There was a question you asked me off camera. What is a super?
Oh, what's a honey super? I did say that earlier. You sort of went there.
I wanted to come back to it.
All right, go. Honey super.
I don't know why the origin of the term. I should know this, but I don't. But super is a connotation that you're putting something on top. And so honey super is a specialized box that you put above the brood nest. The queen generally does not come up in there. And you're going to super, which means put on top a box, and the bees will specifically store honey in them. And that's why it's referred to as a honey super. Sometimes people put a queen excluder, your other question that needed to be answered, between the brood nest and the honey super. And the reason being is the queen excluder is most times, there's many different formats, but you can envision a bunch of wires running parallel and they have a specific space in between the gap.
That's what I said. It looks like a grill.
Yeah, it looks like a grid, but there's a bunch of different kinds. But the one you talked about is the wire one, where wires run front to back of the hive, and the wires are explicitly spaced so that bees can pass through, but the queen, because of her size, is too big, she can't get through. So what does that do? It excludes her from getting up to the top. She can't pass through the wires, and she's trapped. So if you're doing honey production, and for some reason the queen, because they don't read the book, decides she's going to pass up and go into the honey chamber and lay, you don't want that as a honey producer, because you're going to pull those boxes off and harvest.
You don't want to
honey.
take the queen out of the box by accident.
You don't want the queen in that box, and you don't want her laying eggs and have brood in that.
Okay.
The nest expanding.
See, now I thought it was the other way around. I thought it made the queen stay all by herself. I didn't realize the other bees could travel. See, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, other bees could pass through that nonstop. Now,
so it's a queen excluder, but I pictured the queen in a little box, like a little jail cell, and everybody else is outside. She's in there.
Well,
but it's not that at all.
Learn other things that they use, like a queen cage, that not the kind that you ship, but one that you put over the frame. It's like a wire mesh box that has an open side. Sides are closed.
Through and let the queen out or something.
And you trap the queen underneath it, and she stays inside that box.
Right.
That's a queen excluder by your description, but that's not what it's called.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
So let's talk about this we're heading down the path of getting you a box of bees.
Okay.
And I am working on this managed mentoring program. And maybe we could parlay this into, if you're amenable, some sort of series where I take you through the beginning of keeping bees to whatever. We could do
Can
our
I?
own separate episodes just to do that.
You better find out if this made people crazy listening to the two of us talk to each other
Yeah.
before you say that.
Yeah.
Because people might have tuned us out a half hour ago and said, "I can't do this."
It just sounds like he's talking to himself.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what I should have called this episode. Talking to you is like talking to myself.
yeah.
Do you know that? That's a song from Daryl Hall on one of his albums. Talking to you is like
I
talking
don't
to
know if they
myself.
play. Every other
Definitely
one
listen
I
to
do.
his album. I know you would appreciate it. By the way, everybody, I'm pointing at Keith on the screen, has musical Tourette's just like I do. He knows
Yeah.
all the songs. When you say something, he breaks out in verse. This is something symbiotic that the two of us have.
My wedding song, Huey Lewis and the News.
Huey Lewis?
Just saying,
Yeah.
mean the world to me by Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah. So, we'll have to talk offline about how
So series, you and me. Oh my God,
series.
like Bert and Ernie.
just a handful of episodes periodically to get it up. We're late. We should have started you back in February. Honestly, I didn't know you wanted to go. I was
Well,
just
who
going to bring
knew?
a hive and drop it off.
I have to wonder, listening to your podcast and listening to all the things that go on, what happens during this bubble of time with all that we've experienced in the last month with COVID? People listening to this going forward are going to look back at this time and say, oh yeah, I remember this or that, or some of the things he said about, wearing a mask into the supermarket, or, how is that going to play going forward? And never in my life have I ever had, they say, you say to your wife, you know what, sometime when I get some free time, I'll take care of that. Well, guess what? There's no excuses right now.
Yeah.
Your free time is here. If you're not, so essential, non-essential, working, non-working, there's still a crazy amount of time because you're not doing all the recreational things that you were doing. And
Yeah, that brings me to two dynamics that I can talk about out loud. One of them is I don't think a lot of people are going to get started in beekeeping this year. I mean, sometimes I know in our area, some of the packages that typically come up are not getting delivered. So there's 500 plus packages not getting started this spring in my area. That's an interesting deal, and you don't understand why, but we're bringing genetics from Georgia, where it's warmer, up into the cold north, and the bees aren't as acclimatized to this
yeah,
area. And this year, it's going to be different than every other year prior. Those bees are not coming north this year in some aspect, right? The other thing is, I don't have to drive to work. I don't have to drive to work. I don't have to
more
drive
free time.
home, right?
Yeah.
And
So
I could go out and look at my bees at lunchtime. So this is going to be the best beekeeping year ever. I'm on
I
my
gotta,
own schedule, so to speak, working from home. So I think a lot of beekeepers are going to love this year and this situation for the spring because they're going to give loving care. They just wish the weather would break. Like, that's what I think.
I know we have a conure, and he's like, you guys are here every day. I want full attention. But
A
a
what?
couple episodes you had a young
Conure?
guy on with
What's a
you.
conure?
Huh?
What'd you say? You have a what that
A
requires
bird, a parrot.
carrot? Conure. No,
Conure. So
that's a type
two
of bird.
episodes ago, you had a guy that just you and him did an interview.
Yeah.
He said, and I quote, I decided I wanted to do this. I went out and researched it fully before I started. And now I'm here talking to you, essentially. Paraphrase all that he said, because he said a lot that day. There are a lot of people, if you look at things like what's doing good right now, Zoom,
Yeah.
the businesses that do meetings, but also Babbel, right? So if you wanted to learn a lesson in some other language, now is a good time because you have that time. Audiobooks are doing great. Podcasts, I hope your podcast membership is up. Nice.
I don't know.
People are researching how to keep bees. And
Yeah.
if there's some story that's out there from all these things that says something, and it's, oh, you know what, I said I was always going to be that, maybe now's the time. So I think you'll find it, even if they're not ready this year, they're researching for next year. That's my
Well, and
goal.
you could still get started in some respects. I mean, I saw a message came through today that said you have till, I think, April 30th to order a package still from
I
one of
got
the,
it in.
so.
I'm waiting. I'm calling in my favor.
Well, it's, this is the thing. I was in a meeting last night with, was it last night or night before on Zoom with Raritan Valley Beekeepers Association, which I belong to,
Mm-hmm.
Somerset County area beekeepers. There's a lot of new beekeepers getting started, and unfortunately, they can't have people come visit. There's no in-person meetings, and we've turned to a virtual world here. We're not going out to see beekeepers because we got to do social distancing, and it's near impossible to go work a hive with somebody and not pass hive tools between each other and do some of that stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting spring. There's going to be a lot of impact on this. Now, what I've seen is there's beginning beekeeper courses that are being offered online that you can get for free and some of that stuff. But um, this is what people need. To your point, they get started and then they don't know what they're doing. They go out and look in their hive and they don't know what a queen, where the queen might be and what a drone is versus a worker or whatever. So if we discuss things, it'll naturally lead to all the questions. How do you do an inspection? How do you physically take the roof off, smoke the bees, and work your way through a hive and read the frames? That's a skill that
I
you need to
almost feel
learn.
like even if they stood back and you did it for them and they watched from a distance
Yeah,
and maybe filmed it or asked questions, if you started this year and you don't know what you're doing and you ran into some trouble and you have good intentions, maybe it's time to call in the SOS team. Maybe what you need to do is put a rescue team together for people that are really struggling, if you will.
that's what the management mentoring program is that we're doing for
Yeah.
Northwest. If you have a problem, you ring the bell and we'll come out to you or at least hop on the line. But you know what I'll say to you, and you bring up a good point. For anybody listening to this, watching it, if you go to the Northwest YouTube channel, NWNJBA on YouTube, um, it's messy to watch. Don't get me wrong, and it's sometimes filmed awful, film just as bad as it could be. But we do live mentoring meetings at a hive, and we gather all these people together who are usually new, and they ask all the questions, and we take them through all the answers, physically opening the hive, passing frames around, doing all that. If you've got the fortitude, and you should have the time right now, to watch through those videos, we answer so many questions that people like you have, and you could watch the videos. Now, they're not built to be educational, but they're raw and in the moment. And most of the time, we cover the questions that people want to know. You just have to be invested in them. So youtube.com/NWNJBA. And if you look through some of the older videos, especially in the springtime, we do usually an April and a May meeting where we're live in the hives and we cover a lot of ground in them. And they are what you just talked about. Take me through a
Yeah.
hive, show me what you're seeing,
That's what I want.
Yeah.
So yeah, go look at that.
Well, you've had
Right
COVID.
after I get my
So I
wife's
can
stuff.
come over.
Sorry.
All right.
Happy
Well,
wife, happy life.
how about this? Double
Yeah.
trouble. This was fun.
Really, I can't wait to see the feedback. I hope it was good. First time I've ever done anything like this. So if I look bad, I have no excuse.
You look good. You're a handsome dude.
Yeah. You too, man. Looking good.
Ah,
So coming to
what
you from our bedrooms.
what's coming up? Anything? What do you think about that? The other thing I'll talk about, give me 1 second while this is good television here. I know that there are things that they do every year where they want people to come check their hives together. What do I mean by that? They do mite monitoring periods where they want you to go monitor your mites and send your data in. And I think it's usually May timeframe. Sorry, I should have been better prepared for this, but if you get the chance, look around on the web and you'll find Mite Monitoring Day. I don't know what it's called. I forget. I'll try and put it in the show notes for this one, where they're asking all beekeepers during this one period to go out, monitor your hives, and send in your results. And there's something about that tangentially, if you monitor your hives and you find that you need to do something with them and you take action, lo and behold, everybody's doing it at the exact same time. And there's always been this kind of notion, panacea of everybody doing a treat at one time, wiping varroa mites out in a specific week or two. What impact would that have on spring ramp up of varroa mite through a region if everybody did it? So I don't know what were you going to say, Keith?
No, I'm going to go off. I looked it up on the web and I couldn't find Mite Monitoring Day. So back to you.
Pollinator.org/mitathon. I found it. May 2nd through 17th. And then they have a second one, August 15th through the 30th. So North American Mitathon is the name of it. And I'll have a link in the show notes. So it's a good place to end. Keith, I got to say thanks. I just called you yesterday. We were chatting and decided to do this off the cuff. We've been talking about doing the mask thing for forever. And
I always wanted to be famous and on a podcast. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
Yeah.
Really, very exciting.
Nice.
So.
Guns. All right. Well, hey, stay safe out there, everybody.
Like our beloved bees.
When beekeepers go together,
we can accomplish great things. Is that right? Wait, I don't want to. I know I said it. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
We used to be 911 dispatchers, both of us.
Yeah. Operator 39.
Operator 66. KYQ 553. Anyway, they used to give us these papers you had to read for like missing persons or something. So the two of us would sit in a room. And he would go, all cars in Jason's copy radio message. And I would go, 2164 authority, Hunterdon County. And he would go be on the lookout for a thing. And the people on the scanner on the other end had no idea there was two people doing it. So I just thought that would be an appropriate way to finish.
Did we ever switch classes in high school?
Yes, maybe they told us you better switch notes when they were done.
Yes, that's
You weren't really mad, though. At least mine wasn't. Whoever your teacher wasn't really mad at us.
A dem check.
Yeah.
Who was yours?
Koval, I think.
Koval, that's right.
Oh, we're going back a long time. I'm old.
So we were across the hall from each other, and we actually switched, and nobody knew. All the kids in the class knew. They were
the kids in the class, in my class.
It only happened once.
Yeah. We got away with it. My boss came to the racetrack one time, and you sat and talked to him and knew everything about me.
Flemington Speedway.
We had just about the job and everything, and at the end of the
we
day,
had just talked, and we went somewhere. I don't remember where, and you had told me everything you had going on. And this guy walked up, and it was one of those really awkward TV moments, like a Seinfeld episode, where he started to say something, and I'm going, I know this guy, I know him, and I had met him before, but I didn't know him. And then when he started asking me things, it was clear that he thought I was you. And I didn't want to let on that I was an idiot.
I've done that too.
I answered every question he had. To this day, he thinks he spoke to you.
Yeah. So when you're, for those of you that don't know, when you're a twin and you're an identical twin, like I said earlier, I've been called Kevin all my life. I've always answered to his name.
I answered to Keith.
But people come up and they're like, hey, how you doing? You're like, it's not, sorry, I don't know you. You must know my twin, Kevin. Oh, no, I know you. Oh, man, that's really embarrassing. So you go with it for a few minutes while you try and figure it out. It's a twin thing.
Yeah,
Because you remember back in high school, right?
Yeah.
You may or may not remember the 200 or 300 people that were in your class, but you remember all the twins because they were twins.
Of course.
So we have that. That's an unfortunate part of me. It's great to have a friend with you as you grow up every day, but the shortcomings are that somebody comes up and says, "Hey, how you doing? It's great to see you." And you're like, "Oh, geez, I don't know if I know this person or
We
not."
looked a lot more alike when we were younger too.
Well, I'd say we're still pretty good.
You look
Okay.
strange though without a beard. I'm not used to that.
Yeah, I am shaped up. That is unusual.
Yeah, usually you have that I'm a construction worker beard thing going.
Yep, it's a home thing. So, oh, COVID, go away. Be
Uh,
safe, everybody.
yeah, like our beloved bees with beekeepers go together, we can
We
accomplish great things.
accomplish great things.
Thanks
Yeah.
for listening, everybody. Be safe.